G'day, my fellow media collectors. I'm Troy, and today we are going to dive headfirst into the new adventures of Batman, the show that is loved by some, but loathed by many because of one little problem. Yep, you guessed it, Bat-Mite. He is this show's Herbie, and if you watched my review of the Fantastic Four a few months back, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's get into it and see why everyone hates Bat-Mite and is not a fan of
New Adventures of Batman.
This is an animated superhero cartoon series that had 16 episodes with a runtime of 25 minutes each and was aired on the CBS television network from the 12th of February 1977 through to the 28th of May 1977. It was then later released on DVD by Warner Home Video on the 26th of June 2007 with no Blu-ray or 4K HD release as of this video. The majority of the episodes were written by Chuck Menville and Len Janson, but also included episodes by Mark Fink, Arthur Nadel, Bill Danch and Jim Ryan, with all of the episodes directed by Don Towsley. In this adaptation of the show, Bruce Wayne's faithful butler Alfred is missing from the cast, as well as two of his major players in his rogues gallery, the Riddler and Scarecrow, which were off limits to the show, as Hanna-Barbera already had the rights to the characters for the Challenge of the Super Friends, which was aired on the same time as this cartoon.
They're both happening at the same time, so...
This cartoon follows the campy and light-hearted exploits of the iconic Caped Crusaders Batman and his trusty sidekick Robin, with the dynamic duo fighting a crime in Gotham City as they encounter some of the classic Batman rogues gallery, as well as some new original villains. Complicating matters is Bat-Mite, a well-meaning imp from another dimension called Ergo, who considers himself Batman's biggest fan, and as a result he wears a variant of Batman's costume and attempts to help him, only to often create more problems than he solves.
They call me Bat Clutch.
The first thing you notice in these stories and scripts is the commitment to maintaining the comedic and light-hearted tone of its predecessor from the 60s by portraying all of the classic Batman characters in a manner that's more amusing than menacing, aligning with the overall tone of the series from the 60s. Now, the scripts themselves, while being formulaic in their episodic structure and only really strive for surface level interactions with the villains and predictable resolutions by focusing on the emphasis of each episode ending on a moral lesson, which aligns with the educational intent common with children's programming at that time. While the inclusion of Bat-Mite introduces an element of fantasy and mischief to provide a comedic appeal to a younger audience, it does for older audiences provide a level of frustration as Bat-Mite's constant shenanigans impede the ultimate resolutions, which makes what is relatively, say, a 10-minute episode feel like it's stretched out to 25 minutes by the constant interference of Bat-Mite stopping the dynamic duo from completing their task. While this show did not attempt to break any new ground with The Dark Knight, it does succeed in delivering a fun and family-friendly experience that captures really the essence of the colourful and vibrant aesthetic of the 70s. While it did try to have a sense of continuity with the 60s Batman, it also tries to carve it out its own distinct identity. Look, I can appreciate the efforts it tries to make to accomplish this. So for that, look, I'm probably going to give it, look, a 16 out of 30.
Super submerging submarines, Batman. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that.
So all these cartoons were original stories and not any direct adaptations of any specific comic book storylines that I could find. But the show does draw heavy inspiration from its 1960s predecessor, both live action and cartoon, while also taking some liberties with some characters and the like in the show. Now, the show did create some of its own villains for the show, like Moon Man, Zabor, and Electro. No, not that one. Yeah, that one. Anyway, the show also managed to change some of its original villains' costumes, like Catwoman and Riddler. Even though the Riddler wasn't in the actual show, he only was in the intro for some reason, and in a pink outfit, no less. With Catwoman having a complete redesign for the show from her comic book accurate outfit. And for another major difference was Clayface, who had to drink a potion every 24 hours to become Clayface, whereas in the comics he was the monster Clayface 24/7. And of course, no Alfred. What happened to him? Where did he go? Was he on vacation?
He needed a vacation.
Now, if you look at the cast list there is not a lot of names, and from all accounts, or rumours, look, depending on who you believe, they spent all their money getting Adam West and Burt Wood to voice their respective characters, which meant there wasn't much left for anything else, leaving it to Lou Scheimer and Lenny Wenib to voice pretty much everything else. And it's not hard to hear now, like, Lenny does a great job trying to be all of those different voices, but it's hard not to notice that it's him all the time. And as for our two main stars, it's like they'd never missed a beat, hopping back straight into their old roles like an old pair of slippers, just seamless. And for an old 66 Batman fan like myself, it was great to hear them in the show. Now, one other thing I'd like to mention is the animation. Even though it's that classic filmation style, it was a real improvement from the 60s cartoon, in my opinion, with some great sequences up on screen. It was great to watch from an animation perspective. So for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag, maybe just slightly more good things than bad things. So with that, that's why I'm going to give it a 13 out of 20.
My masterpiece is ruined.
And so is your career as a criminal, Dr. Devious.
Okay, if we look at the case, it's one of those earlier ones where they did these, as you can see, it's just cardboard. Look, to tell you the truth, not a big fan of these cardboardy ones. Sometimes, as you can see, they start to scuff up and burr over time or fall apart. They're not made to last, not so much as the plastic ones. And as I'll show you, they're also hard to get out, which is a pain in the ass as well. But as we look at the cover, it's very bright, vibrant, really fits in with the aesthetic. It pops. Granted, the picture's not drawn real well, in my opinion. I wish they went with something like the other Adventures of Batman, with like a classic Neil Adams type sort of picture or something like that. But anyway, it still looks good, it pops, and whatever else. On the side, very stock standard for that time as far as the side of it goes. It wouldn't say it blends in, but it doesn't pop either. And on the back, I like that picture. That's nice with them in the Batmobile. Looks good. Like I said, really blends in with everything else. Okay, as we look inside, as you can see, that's the front cover there. And then we've got the back with a Joker and all the guys on the back. I think that looks really good. Like, that's probably the upside of this. And then if we look at the inside, same again, nice layout, looks good. We've got one of the villains there, and then we've got a double-sided disc, so you have the episodes on one side and the special features on the other. Can't say I've ever been a big fan of the old double-sided discs. That's the potential for scratching is really huge, and I'm glad they really stepped away from that over time. But yeah, it is what it is. And like I said, not a fan of this, because as you can see, it doesn't always go straight in, or when you're getting it out, it doesn't want to come out either. So I'll leave that and do that. Anyway, overall, it's not too bad. Like I said, I wish it was more of a hard case than this cardboard case, but still, it looks really good and they put a bit of effort in it. So that's why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Now there's the Scott Rogers I remember from college. A swell guy with a swelled head.
Okay, as far as special features go, we only really get one, and that is The Dark Knight Revisited, where you have some Batman vets like Paul Dini, Dennis O'Neil, and Mark Hamill, and others talk about the show and its legacy in a sort of upbeat, nostalgic sort of way, trying to say that the best things they can about it, knowing full well, no, there's not many fans out there that actually like this show, but still, it's interesting to watch as they do their best in trying to sort of make the show sound like it's really worth watching. I would love to see some more of the backstory, but you do get a little history, but not a lot. I'd probably want to see a bit more myself. But in saying that, we do get something, and I am happy with that, which is good. You know, not often do we get a special feature on these things. So with that, I am going to give it a score of 4 out of 10.
There's only one person in the world who could figure out a mess like this.
Okay, as I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critics came in at 0, and the audience score is, well, it's 0 too. So you know what that means? Straight to IMDb, and they come to the rescue yet again. And as we can see, they have a score of 6.8 out of 10, which depends on which side of the fence you are on. This is either a great score, or you're like, this is way too high. And for me, well, I think it's a fair score, and I will get to why soon. But out of most of the reviews I read, it's very much like, if you like the Super Friends, you will love this, and they give it a good review. So I think the reviews are very reflective of the age bracket for this one, of like who watched it as a kid. Anyway, as we do, we're going to round it out, and that's going to give us a score of 7 out of 10.
Holy rockets, Bat-Mite! Look at that!
So the reason I reviewed this is because of the amount of people who watched my Adventures of Batman video and kept telling me, cause, now I didn't review it too well, okay, that at least it's not as bad as the new Adventures of Batman. Well, of course, that piqued my interest, as I kinda remember it as a kid, but my memory was a bit hazy on it. So I thought, why not? Let's get into it, and, well, let's see what my verdict is.
Don't just stand there, tell me!
I didn't mind it. Whoa, okay. Look, before you start unsubscribing, just let me have a minute to explain why I sit on this side of the fence. Now, the backstory is, I'm a Gen Xer. I was a kid of the 80s. So for me, I grew up on a very steady diet of Filmation cartoons and the like as a kid. And for me, the new Adventures of Batman is very reminiscent of a lot of the shows that I watched. And they had two very distinct traits. One, they had a moral at the end of the cartoon. And two, was a small comedic relief character like Orko from He-Man, Gremlin from Flash Gordon, Snarf from Thundercats, Deputy Fuzz from Bravestar, etc, etc, etc. I could keep going. So for me, this was the norm for a cartoon. So the whole Bat-Mite thing really didn't put me off at all, because I was so used to it. Hence, I didn't mind the show. And yes, I totally get where people hate this show because of Bat-Mite. But for me, it's not a deal breaker. Will I watch it again? Maybe only for that little hit of nostalgia, shall we say. But anyway, look, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below. As, look, I am going to give it, like I said, because this was a cartoon of my generation, I'm going to give it a 15 out of 20.
In that case, I'll never get into trouble. I never think anything over.
Okay, if we look at collectability, I'm probably going to put this as a 3, about mid-range, as I wouldn't say it's like a necessity, but look, if you are a comic book collector and you're a Batman fan and all that sort of stuff, then yeah, it is a must-have for your collection. If you're just like a casual collector, yeah, probably not, but it has an important part in a collection because it was the only thing out at the time, so it does have a bit of that collectability to it. And then of course that brings us to availability, and that's definitely a 4. I wouldn't go as far as a 5, but it's definitely a 4. You can find copies out there, not a great deal. It's been out of print for a while. That was the only version they released, and it's only on DVD. There's no Blu-ray 4K. So yeah, it is pretty limited, and it only when someone's cleaning out their DVD collection that you'll see the occasional one pop up. So that's why I'm going to give it a 4. Now, if we look at the average price, you're looking at somewhere between around the $29 to $95 for a DVD. So that's a huge difference. So it helps to shop around if you want to buy yourself a copy. And of course, as of this video, there is nothing for Blu-ray or 4K HD. Now, for the final score, we get a grand total of 62 out of 100. Well, there you have it, almost on par with the IMDb score, which for me, I think is pretty fair. Now, I know some people won't like this score, but for a kid of the 80s, I think this cartoon was pretty standard fare. And I'm sticking to my guns on this one.
You're terrific.
And so are you, Bat-Mite.
Hey, so if you like this video, you want to see some more of my reviews, why don't you click that one there? Oh, maybe you want to see some of my collection updates. Got you covered too. Click that one there. And of course, don't forget to do the most important thing. Throw me a like, and don't forget to hit that subscription button on the way out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.